The Cheers to That podcast, proudly brought to you by drinklab.org. Thanks for listening. Your next favorite cocktail is waiting at drinklab.org.
All right, ready to dive into a classic. Today, it's all about the Manhattan. And we're going deep, way beyond the basic recipe.
It really is a fascinating drink. I mean, this is about more than just what's in the glass.
I got it. Our listeners, they're clearly thirsty for some history, some lore, some real cocktail conversation.
I can work with that. And when it comes to history, the Manhattan delivers.
All right, so take us back. Set the scene. When and where does this cocktail first appear?
Picture this. The 1880s New York City. Gaslight on cobblestones. It's an era of elegance.
Oh, I love it already. And the Manhattan is right there in the mix.
Right in the thick of it. Most stories point to the Manhattan Club as the birthplace.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing it's not quite that straightforward.
You know it. Some say it was Lady Randolph Churchill herself, as in Winston's mother. She supposedly requested a new cocktail for a big soiree she was throwing at the club.
Yeah, that's a cocktail party I wish I could have crashed.
Right. But hold on, there's another version of the story.
Oh, tell me more. I do love a good mystery.
This one claims the drink originated at a completely different Manhattan club, a bar, not the social club down in the financial district, run by a bartender named Black.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Who do we believe?
Honestly, it's a bit of a delicious enigma.
So the true creator of the Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's one secret ingredient we may never fully uncover.
Exactly. But isn't there something alluring about that? A little mystery just adds to the mystique.
Absolutely. But mystery aside, one thing's for sure. This drink had some serious staying power.
Right. And think about it. The Manhattan represents this incredible link to the past. It's a taste of that golden age of cocktails.
I like that. So when you order a Manhattan, you're not just ordering a drink.
Yeah.
You're kind of tapping into this whole vibe.
Exactly. It's like a little taste of timeless elegance, the sense of occasion. You're savoring history in a glass.
Beautifully put. But to truly understand it, you have to, experience it.
100%.
All right, then let's break down the recipe. We're talking rye or bourbon whiskey. Your choice, sweet vermouth, a couple dashes of Angostura bitters, and of course, for garnish, the cherry.
And don't forget, stir, don't shake. Crucial detail.
Why is that?
It's about preserving the integrity of the drink. Shaking a Manhattan, well, let's just say it's frowned upon. It dilutes those beautiful flavors, makes it cloudy.
So stirring is key.
Yeah.
Anything else we should keep in mind on the ingredient front?
Absolutely. Use quality ingredients, especially the vermouth. Don't skimp there. Yeah. It makes a world of difference.
Good to know. In fact, our research really emphasized that. Experimenting with different vermouths, different bitters, that's encouraged.
Exactly. It's all about finding what you enjoy. But at its heart, the Manhattan is a spirit-forward cocktail.
Meaning?
Meaning the whiskey. It's the star. The vermouth and bitters, they're there to complement, to add depth, but not to overshadow. Balance is key.
Gotcha. Like a delicate dance between all those flavors. Speaking of which, you mentioned rye or bourbon.
Ah, the great debate. Now, I know you like to get to the
Be
point.
efficient. That's me.
But with this, I can't declare a clear winner. Both rye and bourbon make a fantastic Manhattan, but the flavor profiles, they're different beasts. Rye's got that spice, that bite to it. Bourbon's a bit smoother, maybe a touch sweeter.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. For someone who's new to the Manhattan game, what would you recommend?
Honestly, try them both. See what speaks to your palate.
Love that. Exploration is key. So we've covered the classic Manhattan, the history, the rye versus bourbon dilemma. But there's a whole world of variations out there, right? So we've got the classic Manhattan down, but I'm sensing there's a but coming.
There's always a but when it comes to cocktails. It's all about the riffs, the variations.
I'm guessing the Manhattan has inspired a few over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it this way.
Yeah.
The classic recipe, it's like a starting point, a base camp for a flavor adventure.
I'm into it. So what kind of adventures are we talking about? Our research mentioned a whole list of variations.
Where do you want to start? We could talk about the Bobby Burns. That's a good one.
What's the story with that one?
Well, it's like the Manhattan's sophisticated cousin from across the pond. Instead of rye or bourbon, you use Scotch whiskey. And then there's a touch of Benedictine in there.
Ooh, that sounds right up my alley.
It's got this great balance, the smokiness from the Scotch, that herbal sweetness from the Benedictine. It really works.
I'll have to try that one. What about the perfect Manhattan? That one sounds interesting and maybe a little controversial.
Ah, you're catching on. Yeah, some folks get pretty passionate about this one. It's equal parts sweet vermouth and dry vermouth, which can be a bit of a tightrope walk if you're not careful.
I can imagine. But when it's done right.
Oh, it's sublime. Layered, complex. Totally worth it.
See, this is why I love talking cocktails. You learn something new every time. Speaking of which, I got to ask about this Sophie anecdote we came across. You know, the one with the Manhattan mishap?
Oh, Sophie. Yeah, I remember reading about her.
She was determined to order a Manhattan like a pro.
Which, commendable. But then,
It all went a bit sideways.
to say the least, she asked for a twist of lemon with her Manhattan.
Instead of the cherry. Ouch.
A for effort. Right. But yeah, in the Manhattan world, that's a bit of a faux pas.
So what happened? Did she own it?
Sophie. Oh, she more than owned it. She doubled down. A few Manhattans in, she's giving everyone a lesson on how to drink like a New Yorker. Demonstrations included.
I can only imagine. This is amazing.
It gets better. Apparently, at some point, she declared herself the Statue of Liberty, grabbed a bar napkin as her torch,
No.
and struck a pose on a bar stool. The whole bar went silent.
I would have paid good money to see that.
The best part is she remembers it all the next day. A true Manhattan champion.
That's a story for the ages. It just goes to show the Manhattan. It's got that power to create some truly unforgettable moments.
Definitely memorable. And speaking of unforgettable, we have to talk about these Manhattan puns I found. Prepare yourself.
Oh, I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, here's one. I like my Manhattans how I like my city. Neat.
Oof, that's a dad joke right there.
I know, right? Painful, but you kind of have to admire it. Anyway, puns aside, we talked about the Manhattan's influence, how it was kind of the blueprint for so many other drinks.
Yeah, it's wild to think about how one cocktail could have such a ripple effect. You see those ratios, that sweet and bitter combo, it pops up everywhere.
Exactly, like the Negroni. That's a great example. Or the old-fashioned. There are definitely some shared genes there.
It's like a whole family tree of classic cocktails all branching out from these original recipes. It really does feel that way. Like you could trace the lineage of so many drinks back to that original Manhattan formula.
It's incredible. And, it's not just about the recipes themselves. The Manhattan's influence, it pops up in some unexpected places.
Like where?
Well, think about how often you encounter a Manhattan in books, in movies. It's always there.
Now that you mention it, you're right. It's like a go-to drink for detectives in old movies, right? Or those really glamorous novels.
Exactly. It's funny, right? The drink itself is pretty straightforward, but it's become this symbol, like shorthand for a certain atmosphere, a mood.
It's true. You put a Manhattan in a scene and suddenly it's more sophisticated, more timeless.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the power of these classic cocktails. They tap into something deeper.
Yeah.
It's more than just a drink at that point.
It's an experience. And that's something we've really been exploring today. The history, the variations, all those stories. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does. And I think ultimately that's what makes a drink like the Manhattan so enduring. It's this amazing blend of history, flavor, and a little bit of mystique.
Perfectly said. Well, cheers to that. And there you have it, folks, the Manhattan. We dove into its history, mixed up some variations, and even uncovered a few secrets along the way. So next time you're sipping on this classic, remember, there's a whole world of stories in that glass. Until next time, happy mixing, everyone.
Get your shaker ready. Find these recipes in the description or at drinklab.org. Cheers.